From translation, RSV Revised Standard Version. This 94th day of the year. Today we are reading passages 1 Samuel 28 to 31. 1 Samuel chapter 28, verses 1 to 25. Now in those days the Philistines gathered their forces for war, to fight against Israel. And Achish said to David, "You must understand that you and your men are to go out with me in the army." And David said to Achish, "Very well, you shall know what your servant can do." And Achish said to David, "Very well, I will make you my bodyguard forever." Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had mourned for him and buried him in Ramah, his own city. And Saul had put away mediums and wizards out of the land. The Philistines gathered together, and came and encamped at Shunem, and Saul gathered all Israel, and they encamped at Gilboa. When Saul saw the army of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. And when Saul inquired of the Lord did not answer him, either by dreams, or by Urim, or by prophets. Then Saul said to his servants, "Find me a woman who is a medium, that I may go to her and inquire of her." And his servants said to him, "There is a medium at Endor." So Saul disguised himself and put on other garments and went, he and 2 men with him. And they came to the woman by night. And he said, "Pray divine for me by a spirit, and bring up for me whom I shall name to you." The woman said to him, "Behold, you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off the mediums and the wizards from the land. Why then are you laying a snare for my life to cause me to die?" And Saul swore to her by the Lord, "As the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this thing." Then the woman said, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" And he said, "Bring up Samuel for me." When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice. And the woman said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." The king said to her, "Do not be afraid, what do you see?" And the woman said to Saul, "I see a God coming up out of the earth." He said to her, "What is his appearance?" And she said, "An old man is coming up, and he is wrapped in a robe." And Saul knew that it was Samuel, and he bowed with his face to the ground and did obeisance. Then Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" Saul answered, "I am in great distress, for the Philistines are waging war against me, and God has turned away from me and answers me no more, either by prophets or by dreams. Therefore I have summoned you to tell me what I shall do." And Samuel said, "Why then do you ask me, since the Lord has turned from you and become your enemy? The Lord has done to you as he spoke by me. For the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand, and given it to your neighbor, to David. Because you did not obey the voice of the Lord, and did not carry out his fierce wrath against Amalek, therefore the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Moreover, the Lord will give Israel also with you into the hand of the Philistines, and you shall be delivered into the hands of the Philistines. Tomorrow you and your sons shall be with me. The Lord will give the army of Israel also into the hand of the Philistines." Then Saul fell at once full length upon the ground, and was terrified because of the words of Samuel. Moreover, his strength was not left him, for he had eaten no food all day and all night. And the woman came to Saul, and when she saw that he was terrified, she said to him, "Behold, your servant has obeyed you. I have taken my life in my hand, and have obeyed your words which you spoke to me. Now therefore, hearken also to the voice of your servant, and let me set a morsel of bread before you. And eat, that you may have strength when you go on your way." But he refused and said, "I will not eat." But his servants, together with the woman, urged him, and he hearkened to their words. So he arose from the ground and sat on the bed. Now the woman had a fatted calf in the house, and she quickly killed it, and took flour and kneaded it, and baked unleavened bread of it, and put it before Saul and his servants. And they ate. Then they rose and went away that night. 1 Samuel chapter 29, verses 1 to 11. Now the Philistines had gathered all their forces at Aphek, and Israel was encamped by the spring which is in Jezreel. And the lords of the Philistines passed on by hundreds and by thousands, and David and his men passed on at the rear with Achish. Then the commanders of the Philistines said, "What are these Hebrews doing here?" And Achish said to the commanders of the Philistines, "Is not this David, the servant of Saul the king of Israel, who has been with me these days, or rather these years, and I have found no fault in him since he deserted to me to this day?" But the commanders of the Philistines were angry with him. And the commanders of the Philistines said to him, "Make the man return, that he may return to the place to which you assigned him. He shall not go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he become an adversary to us. For how could this fellow reconcile himself to his Lord? Would it not be with the heads of these men? Is not this David of whom they sing in the dances? Saul slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Then Achish called David and said to him, "As the Lord lives, you have been upright, and your going out and your coming in with me in the army are pleasing in my sight. For I have found nothing wrong in you from the day of your coming to me to this day. Nevertheless, the lords do not approve of you. Now then return and go in peace, that you may not displease the lords of the Philistines." And David said, "But what have I done? What have you found in your servant from the day I entered your service until now, that I may not go and fight against the enemies of my lord the king?" And Achish answered, I know that you are pleasing in my sight, as an angel of God. Nevertheless the commanders of the Philistines have said, He shall not go up with us to battle. Therefore rise early in the morning, you and the servants who come with you when you have risen early in the morning, and as soon as you have light, depart. So David rose early in the morning, and his servants returned with him, as he had risen. And they departed and went back to their own land. 1 Samuel chapter 30, verses 1 to 30. Now when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, the Amalekites had made a raid upon the Negeb and upon Ziklag, and had attacked Ziklag, and burned it with fire, and had taken the women and all who were in it, both small and great. They killed none of them, but carried them off and went their way. When David and his men came to the city, they found it burned with fire, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. Then David and the people with him lifted their voices and wept, until they had no more strength to weep. David's 2 wives also had been taken captive, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail the widow of Nabal of Carmel. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because all the people were bitter in soul, each one for his sons and daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. And David said to Abiathar the priest, the son of Ahimelech, Bring me the ephod. So Abiathar brought the ephod to David, and David inquired of the Lord, Shall I pursue this band? Shall I overtake them? He answered him, Pursue, for you shall surely overtake and shall surely rescue. So David went, he and the 600 men who were with him, and came to the brook Besor, where those who remained behind stayed. But David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 stayed behind, who were so exhausted that they could not cross the brook Besor. And they found an Egyptian in the open country, and brought him to David, and gave him bread and he ate, and they gave him water to drink. They gave him a piece of a cake of figs, and 2 clusters of raisins. And when he had eaten, his spirit revived, for he had not eaten bread or drunk water for 3 days and 3 nights. And David said to him, To whom do you belong, and where are you from? He said, I am a young Egyptian servant to an Amalekite, and my master left me behind because I fell sick 3 days ago. We made a raid upon the Negeb of the Cherethites, and upon that which belongs to Judah, and upon the Negeb of Caleb. And we burned Ziklag with fire. And David said to him, Will you take me down to this band? And he said, Swear to me by God that you will not kill me or deliver me into the hands of my master. And I will take you down to this band. And when he had taken him down, behold, they were spread out over all the land, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil they had taken from the land of the Philistines, and from the land of Judah. And David smote them from twilight until the evening of the next day, and not a man of them escaped, except 400 young men, who mounted camels and fled. David recovered all that the Amalekites had taken. And David rescued his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, either small or great, sons or daughters, spoil or anything that had been taken. David brought everything back. David took all the flocks and herds which they drove before that other herd and said, This is David's spoil. Then David came to the 200 men who had been too exhausted to follow David, and who had remained at the brook Besor. And they came out to meet David, and to meet the people who were with him. And when David came near to the people, he saluted them. Then all the wicked and worthless men of those who went with David said, Because they did not go with us, we will not give them any of the spoil that we have recovered, except that each man may lead away his wife and children. But David said, You shall not do so, my brethren, with what the Lord has given us. Who would listen to you in this matter? For as his share who goes down to the battle shall share alike with him who stays by the baggage, so shall be the reward of both. And this has been a statute and ordinance for Israel from that day to this. When David came to Ziklag, he sent some of the spoil to the elders of Judah, to his friends, saying, Behold, a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of the Lord. He sent it to those who were in Bethel, and to those who were in Ramoth of the south, and to those who were in Jattir, and to those who were in Aroer, and to those who were in Siphmoth, and to those who were in Eshtemoa, and to those who were in Rakel, and to those who were in the cities of the Jerahmeelites, and to those who were in the cities of the Kenites, and to those who were in Hormah, and to those who were in Borashan, and to those who were in Athach, and to those who were in Hebron, and to all the places where David and his men had roamed. 1 Samuel chapter 31, verses 1 to 13. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled before the Philistines, and fell slain on Mount Gilboa. And the Philistines overtook Saul and his sons. And the Philistines slew Jonathan and Abinadab and Malchishua, the sons of Saul. The battle was hard against Saul, and the archers hit him, and he was badly wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, Draw your sword, and thrust me through with it, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through and abuse me. But his armor-bearer would not, for he was afraid. Therefore Saul took his own sword and fell upon it. And when his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell upon his sword and died. Thus Saul died, and his 3 sons, and his armor-bearer, and all his men, that same day together. And when the men of Israel who were on the other side of the valley, and those beyond the Jordan, saw that the men of Israel had fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, they forsook the cities and fled. And the Philistines came and occupied them. The next day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. And they cut off his head and stripped off his armor, and sent messengers throughout the land of the Philistines, to carry the good news to the house of their idols and to the people. They put his armor in the house of the Ashtaroth, and they fastened his body to the wall of Beth-shan. But when the inhabitants of Jabesh-Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose and went all night, and they took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Beth-shan. And they came to Jabesh and burned them there. And they took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree in Jabesh, and fasted 7 days.